would you rather make $1 million and be lonely as shit, or would you rather make 100K a year and be well connected and have a lot of meaningful relationships? So one of the tendencies that I have is that I oftentimes have I'll make up these scenarios in my head where I make myself choose between, would I rather be in this situation or would I rather be in a different situation? So kind of like the extremes of, both ends of the spectrum. And, I would say for, this is like, for this particular example, it was like really the conversation around time, time and money, and like what the trade-off would be. So in this scenario, it would be money versus human connections. And I have a tendency to really just work a lot. And I would say, like, when I was much younger, I wouldn't really say I'm like, some like natural born hustler, because that's just not the case. But I would say maybe in like the past 5 years or so, my work ethic has really just like skyrocketed, and hustle culture and just me putting a lot of value and emphasis on just not just maximizing my time and not wasting time. And maybe a lot of people can relate, because at least I feel like in Western society, or at least in USA, the culture is work. Work is like the currency or something. Work and money, I don't know, be productive. And for me, I have a tendency to work a lot, and I'm always trying to find ways to, like, how can I squeeze more out of like the day or this hour, or how can I plan my week in advance so that I can get the most amount of things done, and not be dicking around. And I think one of the things that I've been coming up against is I would have these kind of like moments every now and then, but I would have these moments where I would just like find myself like feeling really, I don't know, like lonely or like not fulfilled in terms of like the quantity and quality of human connections and social interactions. And I think what brings me to that point is that I would oftentimes like rationalize my way out of like seeing people and hanging out with people and just like socializing, all for the sake of, I could use my time better by working, by doing something productive. And I think that's kind of the theme of my life, like week after week after week, month after month, where it's just like, oh cool, I'm working my day job 5 days a week, whether it's like after work, that I'm like, oh well, should I hang out with like my coworkers, or should I just use that time to work on like my business, or go to the gym, or whatever. And that would be like whatever, the typical Monday to Friday. But then also on the days off, I'm like, oh wow, like I have 2 whole days. How should I best use those 2 days? for productive activities. And I would always somehow find a way to just like justify my way out of hanging out with people. And I think because of that, I chose to focus on productive endeavors, and missed out on so many opportunities for me to hang out with people, meet people, kind of like develop relationships that I could have had with my coworkers, my friends, strangers, just human beings. And I think like for like some people, or maybe a part of our culture, is like, oh man, that is great, you are just focusing on you, and you are focusing on your future, and you are setting yourself up for success by focusing on being productive. And although I don't like completely disagree with that, I mean, I love working hard, and I love being productive, and I love like hustling, but I think where I'm really lacking is the balance. Like, there is no balance in how I've operated. When I am having these conversations with myself, and week after week, it's always the work that wins and not the people. That might work for a short period of time, but at least for me, over the long run, like after months of choosing work over people, I lose, because I understand that like relationships are everything, and like no matter how productive I am, like it's just gonna suck a lot, like if I don't have any meaningful connections with other human beings. I don't know if I got a little bit off tangent, but so I do put a lot of emphasis and importance of obtaining like financial freedom, and the freedom to do what I want, and having the means to do so. And I think that's one of the reasons why I do work so hard, and I try to not have like that much downtime. So I ask myself, would I rather make $1 million and be like super rich and not have any meaningful connection, what they say, like rich and lonely, or would I rather make $100,000 a year, which to me honestly isn't that much, but like $100K a year and have a lot of human connection. So literally it's like, would I rather make 10x, or would I rather make 1/10? And I really had a hard time with the question. Initially I was thinking of picking like between 1 million or like $250,000, and for me it was easy. 250 is it's good enough. But then my friend David was like, no, like make it harder, like choose between 1 million and 100K. I'm like, wow, like being in the West Coast, if you're living in California, 100K, like it ain't shit. 100K is considered poverty. So yeah, it was a really tough question, but after sitting with it for a while, I would rather make $100,000 a year and have a lot of meaningful connections over making $1 million a year and having like no connections and no meaningful relationships. And you know, maybe some of you guys might think differently, but for me, you know, like I know how loneliness feels like. I know what it feels like to not have anyone to you know, feel like you can connect to, and like just like being by myself. Like I know how that feels like, and I'm not saying like I'm scared of being alone, or you know, I'm not saying I gotta be with like around people all the time, because I don't. You know, I'm pretty introverted, but I love and I crave connecting with other people. And I know that if I had like a shit ton of money but no meaningful connections, nothing's really gonna matter. Like I'm not gonna be like making $1 million a year and like buying friends. Like that's some bullshit. I'm not gonna fucking buy friends. They wouldn't be called friends, you know? So yeah, I think also like working within the confines of only having 100K a year can also be like a fun challenge, because it will really kind of force me to stay focused, stay frugal, not go like not fucking YOLO, and you know, like whatever leftover money I would have from that 100K, you know, I could invest it into like business and stuff. Like, you know, I mean, one of my business, like I started like under 2 years ago, and literally started with like $500, and you know, within, you know, a year you could like 100x your business. You know, there's like 1,000 startup ideas out there that you can start for like low to no cost. So I think there's a lot of fun in those type of challenge as well, working with very limited capital. But yeah, I mean, you know, I thought about it long and hard, and I know it's a really tough decision to have to choose to settle for 1/10 of what I could be making annually. But you know, at the end of the day, like I am a human being. I am an emotional creature. I am not a robot. So you know, if I am forced to live a life of loneliness and having no meaningful relationships and connection, I am gonna feel like shit. And you know, even if I had $1 billion, it's not gonna mean anything, because I'm not a fucking robot. And this is actually like one of the intentions of my YouTube channel, is one of the visions that I have for this channel is to really not only like share some of my perspective and my experience, but to also connect with people like all around the world. So it's like no matter kind of what demographic you fall under, you know, I think it would be really amazing to connect with all different types of people, because you know, I think especially in this day and age, connection goes beyond just, you know, me having to meet you face to face. Like who knows, like maybe a ton of really meaningful relationships can be you know, started from just like simple like messaging, like, oh hey man, really like your video or whatever, and then you know, just hit it off like that. Like who knows. But I think there's a lot of possibility for meaningful connections. I think I was trying to say relationship, but meaningful connections. And I think, you know, online is especially YouTube, is a very powerful platform to kind of facilitate that. So yeah, like, would you rather have a shit ton of money and be lonely? I mean, like, maybe like if, you know, say your family is like struggling with a lot of financial problems, and you're like, well, I'd just rather get the $1 million than, you know, take care of them while, you know, I myself live a miserable life. And you know, I think that's understandable. For me, I would rather choose the 100K, have meaningful relationship, and get really creative with the limited capital that I would have, and grow that into something more. Let me know what you would do.